is Des of Peg and Des. Peg is on travel this week. I'm holding the fort down. And before we get into our review of Basketball Wives, let's talk about subscribing to this channel, following us on Twitter at Peg and Des, and watching our other videos. Gotta do it. It's good stuff here. So let's actually talk about Basketball Wives. Of course, there's more Evelyn and Chad discussion this week. I'm trying to figure out how long this is going to be a sustainable storyline before people get exhausted with the show overall. The problem is that this entire story played out in the media, play by play, day by day. I mean, TMZ was giving us almost hourly updates. Gossip.com was contacting friends and family and getting exclusive interviews. Media Takeout was going in. I mean, clearly all of the gossip sites that cover this type of gossip had Evelyn and Chad's story on lockdown. So for all of us to tune in and then to have to relive that is just exhausting, quite frankly, especially considering it is a one-sided dialogue. I mean, all of that discussion that happened in the media, I didn't really hear a lot of Chad's story. I mean, to date, he still hasn't done a single interview, hasn't released an article that I know of. Maybe he has done some and I just missed them, but I still am only hearing Evelyn's side of the story. And not to say that I particularly care to hear one side or the other, it's just if I've got to hear it, let it at least be a balanced story. Anyways, I'm hoping that within the next couple of weeks, this whole situation can taper off. I know that Basketball Wives is about the lives of the women on the show, and this is something that's happening in Evelyns Life. But at the same time, I just need more things to be happening in her life. We've really got to pick up the pace here, Basketball Wives. I'm serious, Shawnee. It's real. So let's talk about Tami. Tami is an enterprising young woman. She's got her weave line, and she's also doing a cosmetics line, and we learned that she's doing nail polish. I was wondering, as I saw her talking to the woman who's responsible for merchandising and helping people build their brands, why nail polish? I mean, it's just one of those markets that I don't quite get. What would differentiate a Tami nail polish from an OPI nail polish, other than the fact that OPI is any and everywhere that you want it, or any of the other nail polish lines? I wasn't quite sure why her nail polish would be special. And on the strength of Adrienne Bailon, who was supposedly putting out a nail polish line as well, I still don't get the celebrity nail polish shtick. I mean, unless you're giving me colors I haven't seen, or you're giving me a way to do designs, or you're gonna put something out like the Minx people, I don't quite get it, Tami. I'll support it because I know Kenny Anderson isn't paying child support, so I will definitely support it in my mind and in my spirit. I'm just confused by it. Okay, so let's talk about the theme of women having their own. We heard a lot of this on the show this week. It's important that women have their own. I have to have my own this. I have to have my own that. And I am over this being a revelation for women. Like, honestly, people, honestly, of course it's important that you have your own. Of course it's important that you find a way to create a sustainable life for yourself in the absence of a man. Why is this always discovery when it comes to these celebrity women? We see it on Starter Wives. We've seen it on the show Real Exes of Hollywood. I lost the name of that show there for a moment. Real Exes of Hollywood. You hear women who've been with celebrities often say, I'm now realizing how important it is for me to have my own stuff. Well, yeah, ma'am. Yeah, it is. That relationship may not last, but your appetite for food will. You gotta work. You gotta figure something out. So Tami is putting her own in place. Evelyn is enterprising and putting her own in place. And then we learn that Suzie is thinking about going back to school. She's not quite sure for what yet, but she realized that her life in Miami was very much out of control, and now it's time for her to regroup, get settled, and do something for herself. She also talked about wanting to get married again, which I thought was kind of interesting. Every time Suzie's on this show, I forget that Suzie is a mother and a spouse or an ex-spouse of someone. I forget. She always feels to me like the little girl that they picked up on the corner and just tossed on the show for giggles. But anyways, I'm rooting for her. I hope she does go to school. I think that would be a good idea. I'm hoping also that her face continues to loosen up. It just looks really painful, Suzie. I don't even know what the name of that surgery was that you had, but I hope you can tell others about it so that they don't have it. I mean, it just looks really tough. Really, really tough. Let's talk about Stefan and Tasha. So Stephon Marbury is a famous basketball player. He is actually, besides Shaquille O'Neal, one of the most famous players who has been mentioned on the show. Because, you know, we've heard other players being mentioned on the show, and Eric Williams, and I don't even know some of the others' names. Some of them, when they mentioned them, I had to Google them because I had no idea who they were talking about. But Stephon Marbury is very popular. What I couldn't understand is, for as long as Stephon Marbury has been playing basketball, why is he playing in China for 4 years? He played in the NBA for a long time. And I mean several seasons, and made a lot of money. I don't know if this is just because he wants, you know, to continue playing basketball for the love of the game, or if this is because he actually needs the money to sustain himself and his family. But he's away from his family for long periods of time playing basketball in China. So I hope that it's not an Allen Iverson situation where I've got to play to eat. I really hope Stephon stacked his American NBA money. But we meet Tasha. Tasha Marbury is kind of interesting. She seems very formal, or as Tami says, bougie. You know how Tami does with her eyes, bougie. So I didn't think that Tasha was bougie. She just seemed like she was a little bit on guard, which she rightfully should be, because every time a new woman comes on this show, there is some mess. As Evelyn said it a couple seasons ago, if you're not in the inner circle, you're nowhere. So Tasha has to figure out how to get in that inner circle. And she decides to host a dinner party at her house. Her home is very lovely, and there's a lot of anticipation leading up to the dinner party. Tami goes to town in preparation for this dinner party. I couldn't understand why Tami was so busy trying to make this dinner party uncomfortable. She was saying out of her mouth, I don't want anything to go wrong. But her actions and her attitude were saying, I want everything to go wrong. We first see her in a bar telling Suzie, when you get to the table, be your donkey self and ask this woman inappropriate questions about her relationship at her kitchen table. That was the first thing that Tami tells Suzie. Then Tami shows up, and there's just all kinds of negative energy coming from Tami. And her whole premise is, I just said to tell your truth. Tell what truth? You don't even know her. You don't know Tasha's truth. So why are you so concerned about her being bougie and telling her truth, Tami? Tami, you're back in bully mode. I feel it coming. I know you feel it coming. I feel it coming. You're right there again. So you're in the house, and we see Tami with lots of side eye, lots of passive aggressive chatter. Tasha, I know this is a champagne household, but you got a Bud Light. Why does it have to be all that? And the woman had a ton of beer for her. She had a ton of beer. She said, not only do I have Bud Light, I've got Boone's Farm and Mad Dog 2020 for your ghetto behind. She didn't say all that, but that's what Tasha was thinking, or at least I like to think that's what Tasha was thinking. So Tami sits down at the table and is doing a whole lot of this. And when Tasha talks about opening her business, which is apparently a weave bar, equivalent to a blow dry bar, where you can just go in, get a quick weave, and hop out, Tami says out of her mouth, I won't look at Tasha as an adversary. I'll look at her as someone who could sell my products. But the way she's behaving, once again, is not in line with that. So, Tami, I don't know what your shtick is this season. Maybe you are supposed to bring the interest to the show by inciting these fights, but incite them around something else more interesting. Because Tasha really hasn't done anything to anybody as of yet. Really. I mean, give us something to work with. Now, next week, we see Shawnee having a discussion about Tami because Evelyn apparently told You know what? I'm not even going to play this game. I don't know who said what to whom. It just appears that word got back to Tami that Shawnee said things could go very well or very poorly over at Tasha's house. And Tami was not happy about that, despite that being the truth. So it looks like Tami wants to create a fight around that also, bringing Shawnee into the fight trap. We'll see what happens next week. My hope is that we can continue to taper off on the Chad and Evelyn dialogue, although we see her with the counselor next week. I don't know that we'll be able to make that happen. And that we'll just kind of get some more meaty storylines going on. I mean, come on, girls. I've been watching Basketball Wives for a few seasons now. Feet don't fail me now. Remember, subscribe to this channel and also check out our other videos and follow us on Twitter at Peg and Des. Goodbye.